Well, Michael, I really appreciate your taking some of your time to talk with me about why we have worked together and quite honestly worked so well together, because you've grown an amazing business during the time that we spent together. So thinking back to when we got started, what was the biggest reason that you decided to hire me?
Well, initially we talked about doing the Supernova program, which came out of the Merrill Lynch system. At that point in time was really focused on staying independent by myself, one assistant, and just trying to grow a nice practice that I could get my arms around. At that point in time, I just had way too many clients, way too many accounts, and really felt like the program wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So we started that conversation, went through that program together, and fortunately, it morphed into something bigger and better as you branched out on your own. The program that you and I developed, again, grew us into what we are now.
So, when you think back to that, where you kind of went from thinking about, I want to grow kind of the prototypical, $100 million client practice, keep it small, just you and Nancy. What changed your kind of vision to what is now a multi-advisor practice with, 4 or 5 times as many assets?
Quite honestly, I got bored. It just became a situation. I've been doing it for so many years. I didn't necessarily like being out there on my own. At that point in time, I was associated with an independent broker-dealer. Really started to develop the fee-based part of my practice, and really felt like having more people part of this was important. I also, at that point in time, had started working with FP Transitions with regard to developing kind of valuation of the company, really got into the succession planning. And I took that very seriously, worked with them, and I still work with them today with regard to how to transition a practice properly and really make it monetarily beneficial as you do it.
Mm-hmm. But where did the kind of the vision come in, though? Because you had that one vision, 100 clients, $1 million each, to I want to have an enterprise that because with that you were able to grow something much bigger that obviously wasn't just more valuable financially, also created new opportunities and challenges as you added advisors and added new clients.
Right. I'd say that came from 2 places. Number one, from you. As we talked a lot about this, where we could head with this company. That is a huge part of it. And again, we had a lot of long conversations about that, if you remember. Also worked with a local investment banker, a gentleman that we sat down and just kind of mapped it out and kind of big picture thinking. A lot of those numbers we put together were shared with you. So between the 3 of us, I really kind of created a vision of what it could become. And I think as we did more and more of that got more and more exciting. It opened up a lot of new doors, more learning. I think companies nationwide, you started seeing this M&A happening. And so fortunately, we jumped up on that front.
So that's good. So when you think about the work that we've done together, what are like name out 2 or 3 of the most important accomplishments, and don't just limit yourself to thinking about the financial piece, because you've been wildly successful in terms of growing revenues and growing assets. And I almost take that as a given with you. But what are some of the other things that really jump out to you that were benefits of working with somebody who was kind of looking over your shoulder?
Probably the easiest way to think about that is what you and I talked, again, a long time ago about, is having you kind of acting as my chairman of the board when it was just kind of me and in the early stages of getting this thing rolling. The way I operate is I like to run ideas by people, just to think things through. I usually don't have all the right answers. And so to have somebody else with your experience of within this industry in a variety of different manners, actually working in it, but also on it, I think that was most beneficial to me, just being able to pose questions, pose scenarios, trying to keep my focus moving forward and not getting distracted. As you also know about me, I have that shiny penny syndrome. But I think it's just that ability to be able to run those ideas by you and explore pathways.
And stay focused. Just kind of stay on the main thing, because I think that's something that a lot of people that I work with struggle with sometimes. It's not even necessarily shiny pennies. It's there's just so many different things that you can do because it's such a complex business with lots of great ideas, and but you've got to stay focused on the main thing, because what's that saying? The main thing is the main thing.
Yeah, totally right.
Yeah. So what about working with adding partners and teams? 'Cause to me, that's been one of the most enjoyable parts of working together, is kind of the comings and even some of the goings of people to make sure that you have the right people on the bus.
Well, again, prior to your and my involvement, I had been down that pathway. I had literally built a practice with about 6 people, 2 other advisors and support staff, financial planners, blah, blah, blah. Didn't work so well because I did not think through the pieces and the chemistry associated with adding those pieces. Obviously, in order to build a company like this now with 11 of us, really with 7 advisors being part of that 11, a lot of different personalities, and if the chemistry is not working, it can be a real mess. And so having been on that path where it didn't work, having to kind of take 2 or 3 steps backwards, rebuilding it, and again, being more thoughtful about the additions, the right people, how do they interact? You and I have worked through a lot of different personality testing with people. So using the tools that are available, but again, making it a very focused effort on what we're trying to accomplish. That's why I think now we're at a place where we are, where the chemistry is good and the interaction on a daily basis really feel like everybody's rowing in the same direction. So it's a really good thing.
That's awesome. So you've got the bigger business, you've got a more unified team kind of pointed in the right direction, and your succession plan is clearly in place.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So just a couple more questions. When you think about the coaching work that we've done together, what is it that stands out about me as a coach? So what are some of the strengths that you see that I bring to the equation that maybe you haven't seen in other coaching or mentoring relationships?
I think the biggest issue that I face, and I've been with a lot of coaches through my years, and typically what I have found in the past is they are all very cookie cutter. What you and I talk about, you're talking with everybody else about. That's not the way you and I operate. It's never been your coaching style. It's much more focused on the individual. So what am I trying to accomplish? Not so much what are you trying to accomplish? And so that's a distinct difference between your style and other coaches out there. You're never afraid to ask the questions. Sometimes I don't like the questions you ask, but it forces me to answer the questions and think through. And there's always a thoughtfulness behind why you're asking certain things. Sometimes it takes a while to get there to understand it, but that style for me works very, very well. And I think, again, because of that customization of what you brought to the table, it's allowed us to quasi-grow this thing together, quite honestly.
Right.
It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, no, although with multiple partners now, it's a little different, but I certainly knew your business almost as well as you did for a big part of that time, which is one of the most fun parts of kind of being that virtual chairman or CEO, whatever you want to call it. It does feel like my business, and that's the way I like to treat it. So what advice would you give to somebody who is considering hiring a coach?
Well, first of all, take a step back, figure out kind of the direction that you're wanting to go, but don't lock yourself into it. because it can change, as I have found out. I think that style is an important thing. I mean, obviously, there's a huge amount of trust when in our situation, how much of this company and how much of me personally I've shared with you. You've got to have certainly that trusting relationship that whoever you're using as a coach is looking out for your best interests. As you know, you and I become great friends because of this whole process. But business-wise, it's just a matter of, again, the pathway and what kind of coach or what kind of person can get you from where you stand today, where you want to be tomorrow, and have the tools to be able to accomplish that. Again, with your background, having been in this business, you know the nuances of it. You know how it works. So you manage people, you manage clients. So all those things are really important versus coaches that have never done it. And I've had those coaches too, and they bring things to the table. But in this business, in today's world, I think you get from point A to point B a heck of a lot faster when you're dealing with somebody that has sat in the same seat that I'm now sitting in.
Yeah, it sounds almost egotistical to say this, but one thing I tell people when they're considering hiring me is there's probably not a topic or a question that they can answer me that I haven't seen in some way, shape, or form before, which obviously is an expression of the kind of the body of knowledge, but it's the application of that I think is really important, because it's so easy just to, tell somebody do this because it's kind of seems like an obvious next step. But the tough questions part is that's probably what I enjoy doing the most, is thinking about what's the question that's going to drive forward.
Well, I think another comment I would make with regard to the coaching question as an advisor, again, whether you want to just stay on your own, if you want to build a team, you're working with both styles, and your ability to learn from me and my mistakes or my successes, you can use those as opportunities to help the next advisor try to achieve what they're trying to achieve. And obviously you've kept it very private, so you're not sharing personal or financial data, that obviously, but I think having the ability to learn from each of the advisors you're working with, and having that in your little tool chest, is huge benefit for other advisors that may want to work with you.
Yeah, and that's why I say that comment about not having seen it all before can sound egotistical, but it's not, because new things that come along as you're working with somebody new inform that knowledge. So it broadens the knowledge. The topics may be the same, but the breadth of what you can draw from working with people in real time is really important.
Totally agree.
So last question. I don't do this with all of my clients, but more and more I'm having clients ask me to come and meet with them, either kind of individually at the advisor level for sort of executive level retreats, but also to do team building sessions with the whole team. And I've done a number of those with you and your team as it's growing. Talk a little bit about the value that comes from kind of getting together and doing that type of strategy work.
I think one big, huge bonus by having you come in is, my people listen to me every day. And when you get in those team building sessions, I won't say it feels like smoke is being blown, but they're hearing it all the time. And so there's no nuance to that team build opportunity. Having you come in as an outsider, so to speak, and bringing your skill sets, acting as a moderator, you can take me out of that role so I can participate as a team member and not just the leader that everybody has to listen to. We've done that with our full team, including all staff members. Most recently, we've done that just with our ownership. Myself and my 4 other owners now. Having you in that position of moderator and somebody to be accountable to, that here's the things that we made a list of together that we're trying to accomplish. And having you as that outside resource to answer to, I think, has been really important as it comes now to the new ownership team that we have.
Great. As you were answering that question, I just thought about something that I forgot to ask. You talked about the fact that we've become very good friends. I mean, it's hard not to when you talk just about every week for the number of years that we've worked together. But, kind of, and not that I have to be really close friends with all of my clients, although it certainly makes it more rewarding. But talk a little bit about kind of how you see what I do from the kind of the mental and the focus perspective of getting you not just thinking about your business, but thinking about how it relates to your purpose and life and the other things that you're doing. Because, as you continue to transition your business, you're making some significant changes in what you do outside of the office.
Mm-hmm. Well, I spent 15 years in this business and 14 years in banking before that, with the sole purpose of trying to be successful as a business person, as a manager, and as a leader, and gave really not a whole lot of attention to my personal life and the goals that I was trying to achieve there. And I think that was another thing that clicked right when you and I started working together. Was mentally I was ready to focus elsewhere. If you recall, I'd had almost sold my practice at that point in time, and thank goodness I didn't. What it's allowed me to do in working with you, half our conversations aren't about business, half of it's about life, and half of it's about where this fits in life. What am I trying to do next? My next chapter. The succession planning, the building of the company, are all now leading me down that path of being able to accomplish those next goals, which again I've already started on, and that has been a huge reward of working together. When we first started talking, I had no idea this would be as personal of a relationship as it has become. I mean, it was all about I've got to find a coach to help me again drive business. It's just moved past that, and I would certainly encourage any advisor that's talking to you to think outside the box that way, because it does become more about life balance and opportunities outside of just running a practice.
Because you can't grow a successful business if you are growing it in exclusion of all this other craziness going on in your life. But when the rest of your life is calmer, more peaceful, in alignment, the business lines up. The decisions become easier.
Exactly right. Yeah. You again, it's funny how it works when you broaden the focus. When you're thinking about all the different pieces, how they fit together, the one little thing or things that are going wrong aren't that big a deal. You kind of can put them in perspective, and again, it makes you a better leader and it makes you a better advisor as you deal with whether it's employees or clients, whatever you're dealing with. I think you just get a lot better at what you're doing when you have that perspective.
That's awesome. I appreciate your taking a few extra minutes to talk about that, because that's actually probably the part of what I do that I enjoy the most, is making sure that it isn't just about business. That, like recently, I've been talking to people about growing 7-figure and beyond purpose-driven businesses, and making sure that we don't put the numbers always ahead of what it is you're trying to accomplish in life, both personally and with the things that your business can do. Because obviously, if you grow a great business, you have the ability to do great things in your community, for your family, for the people you care about.
Well, I think the biggest reward I have from a company perspective now is through all the work we've done together, the succession planning that we've done together with FP Transitions Help. I feel very rewarded that I get to pass this on to 4 new owners, 4 guys that are younger than me, that have bright futures. Quite honestly, are probably better advisors than me, but it's a rewarding to be able to build that, being able to tell clients that, hey, it's not going to stop with me, that this is getting better. And our goal is to create, with legacy, as it sounds, multiple generations of ownership in this thing. And that has been probably the biggest reward from a company perspective And again, something that when you and I first started, I wasn't even thinking about.
Right.
But
When you
this
have
is where it's led.
Yeah, when you have a company name legacy and one of your goals is to help your clients build legacies, it's great that you're building a legacy for yourself along the way.